Next, I'd like to ask Blake Mycoskie to come out. He's the founder of Tom's Shoes, and one of the most interesting entrepreneurs I ever met. Before his 32nd birthday, he had already started 5 successful businesses, been honored by the Smithsonian Institution, and brunched with the First Lady. He is not your conventional business guy. While vacationing in 2006 in Argentina, he befriended children who had no shoes. And it gave him the idea to create Tom's, Shoes for a Better Tomorrow. For every pair of Tom's shoes you buy, he gives a pair to a child in need, 1 for 1. In 2006, Tom's in Argentina hand-delivered 10,000 pairs of shoes. Now, the company has given over 130,000 pairs of shoes to children in need through the purchases of caring customers, and wants to more than double that number in the coming year. The CGI commitment Tom's made in November 2007 provides shoes for 50,000 children in South Africa and more than 25,000 in Ethiopia. And in doing that, Tom's commits to help eliminate and prevent something called mossy foot disease, which Blake may talk about in a moment. He's also part of a mega commitment that we got a lot of people to make to help Haiti recover from its 4 storms and hopefully bounce back even better than it was before. Blake, let's talk about this shoe deal. Most people here, if you ask them, what do you want to do for poor people in the poorest countries of the world? They'd say, oh, I want to fight AIDS or malaria or deal with maternal and child health, or there's 130 million children that never darken a schoolhouse door. I'd like to get them into school and give them basic learning materials. Many people are familiar with Greg Mortenson's wonderful book, 3 Cups of Tea, and what he's done, and John Wood's book, and all these people that are working in education. So tell us 2 things. Number one, people won't know this. Why are shoes such a big deal? You know, when I grew up in Arkansas after World War II, our per capita income was only 50% of the national average, and everyone else around here, including my friends in Texas, made fun of us for being barefoot half the time. Why are shoes such a big deal? And why did you do this as a business instead of an outright philanthropy?
Great.
Both these things are important.
And they both really are, the answer's intertwined. I wish I could say that I went to Argentina originally in some great noble pursuit of philanthropy or charity, but I originally was down in Argentina having a vacation. And when I was down there, I met some social workers, and I asked them what they were doing, and they said, a shoe drive. And they went on to proceed to explain to me that they were going around getting old shoes and giving them to the kids in the surrounding areas who didn't have shoes. And I asked if I could come along, and when I went along and I saw kids without shoes, it was the first time in my life I had this desire to do something besides just start another company, which I'd been doing for 10 years. And I watched as these kids who had cuts and infections and scabs, you know, were getting shoes that were not even new. They were hand-me-downs and not really the right sizes. And I thought, there's got to be a better way to solve this problem. And the next day I thought about it from more an entrepreneurial standpoint and said, you know, how could I create a more sustainable way to give these shoes? And that was to create a business, not a charity. So the question, your second question of why a business, not a charity, well, I thought I could actually create a more sustainable way to give shoes to people by being a for-profit business that was based on this buy one, give one model. And the reason I thought that was I really worried about starting a charity and being dependent on people's donations. If I went and got let's say I went to my parents and friends and family and they gave me money the first year and I gave the shoes away, and now the second year, and now the kids are getting used to wearing shoes now, which I'll get to why that's important. And then we have something like Hurricane Katrina, and I go to my donors and they say, Blake, we love what you do, you're really passionate, but we gave our money this year to Katrina victims, rightfully so. But now what do I tell the kids? So my idea was create a business, and that way you can have true sustainability, and we've proven that that works. And I've dedicating my life to convincing people that you don't have to start a charity to really help people. You can actually start a business and help far more people. And that's what we're doing with Tom's. And the reason shoes, originally the reason was I just saw kids that didn't have shoes, and I thought they needed shoes. And then I started talking to people, and I found out that you're not allowed to go to school if you don't have shoes. You're not allowed, not only is there a health implication, but there's actually an educational component to the shoes. So the shoes that we give in South Africa are specifically to kids so that they can go to school now with this pair of shoes. So it's a shoe, but it's leading to education. And then another project that I'm probably most passionate about is in Ethiopia. There is a horrible foot disease that President Clinton spoke about called mossy foot. It's also called podoconiosis. And it's basically a silica that gets in through the pores and destroys the lymphatic system. So kids, actually 1 out of every 12 kids in southern Ethiopia, gets this disease. Their feet expand to look like an elephant's foot. It's the most grotesque thing you've ever seen, and they have no life. I mean, that's it. When you get podoconiosis, if you're a woman, no one wants to date you or marry you or have kids. If you're a young boy or a girl, you're not allowed to go to school. So there's tons of foot diseases out there. Millions, actually 1 billion people are at risk for foot diseases like hookworm, podoconiosis. And shoes prevent this. We don't need a medicine. We don't need a special vaccine. All we need to do is A, give people shoes, and B, educate them as to the importance of shoes. So it's actually been through this 3-year journey that I've learned more what was kind of a natural inclination to give shoes, how important it is, and then we focused our areas more in those areas where we can have the greatest impact by giving them.
And let me ask you one other thing. Yeah, if you don't mind. Now, I think you brought some of your shoes here, right?
How many people have a pair of Tom's shoes? Raise your hand. Nice, thank you.
Yeah, so if maybe you haven't been to pick up your bag or something, but he's lathered us up pretty well with these. And the interesting thing is, since most of these people live in warm climates, you can make a simple shoe as long as it has a sturdy sole. So you're wearing some of your shoes, right?
Exactly. I mean, this is a pair of Tom's shoes, if you've never seen a pair. And the same ones we sell, we give away. But also, just recently, and you might not know this, but we've actually started working with a factory in Ethiopia, creating a special rubber boot now, because we found that podoconiosis, it would be easier to prevent it by having a rubber boot that came to the ankles than just our shoes. So as Tom's grows, we will introduce new types of shoes, and also we will always make sure the shoes we give are most suitable to the needs that the people have. So,
and even though you charge quite a modest price for these shoes, you still make a profit, don't you? Even giving away a pair for every pair you sell.
Yes, 2008 was our first year to make a profit, which was incredibly exciting because that proved the business model to the financial world as it was proving to the philanthropic world. And yes, we charged about $42 for our shoes, and we build in enough margin so that we can A, make another pair and have a small profit. And I get the question a lot of, well, how do you do that? The best way that we do that is if you look at the big Nikes and Converse and big shoe companies, they spend a huge percentage of their margin on advertising. Tom's, because everyone who wears a pair of Tom's then becomes a storyteller and a marketer of Tom's, has to spend far less money on advertising than a typical shoe company, so we can use that money to plug into the shoes that we give away.
Now, the reason that I've talked about this at some length, besides the fact that I like Blake and he's pretty compelling and it's an amazing story, is that there are some things that lend themselves particularly well to this. For example, one of our CGI commitments here, and I'm probably going to get killed when I go backstage because I don't know if I'm supposed to announce it later, but there's a student here at UT who has made a commitment to go gather up all the kitchen grease from all the dining halls and places around here that those of you who are from here frequent to make biodiesel to run small cars and lawnmowers and generators. You know, you could do that as a business, as a small business, and it would be easier to replicate it. And that could be done, again, in virtually every community in America. We need to think about things that advance the public good, that if they could run a modest profit would be more sustainable. If you get in the model where I am, you know, I've always been able to raise a lot of money, but I'm like where you are. When this economy went down, a lot of people have been giving me millions of dollars a year to save lives and AIDS and to do this climate change work, did not have it. And so if there's something that you can do that will generate income in a legitimate sense, it's something that ought to be given more thought to.
And I'll say a point to that is, in the last 4 months, as everyone has experienced this recession and what they're calling the retail crisis, I think our model's been proven even more so, because Tom's sales this past month were 3 times what they were last year this month, and we're probably the only shoe company in the world that can say that. So we're not having to depend on those charitable gifts as you're talking and those donations, because had we started as a charity, we might not be giving 3 times. I know we would not be giving 3 times as many shoes this month than last year if we were a charity. So,
yeah. Where do you want to be with this kind of work 5 years from now? If you could paint the best scenario possible, what would you be doing 5 years from now in this area? What do you hope will happen to change between now and the next 5 years?
Well, in southern Ethiopia, and this disease podoconiosis, as horrific as it is, it's very encouraging because it's so specific to the region that in 5 years, we can prevent the next generation of young people from getting it and be very far along our way to eradicating a disease that's been around for thousands of years. I mean, when I first went there, it blew me away that no one had done something yet, that people had been living for hundreds of years completely ostracized and thinking they're cursed by God because they have these problems with their feet, but all it really is the soil. So in 5 years, I believe that we can prevent the next generation of kids from getting it, so they'll all be in school. And I think by showing that if the kids aren't getting it anymore, that will educate the rest of the people the importance of shoes. And we were talking before about that's when we figure out how we can start selling shoes to the older people and then get the entire community wearing them so we can eradicate this disease. And I think we can be very far along in 5 years to that plan.